Right, part two on the additional bit of baseboard. So what I've got here is the plywood with some leftover foam board on, then paper mache, and then some cheap green paint. Okay, so that's all dried now. Okay, so I can crack on with putting the grass on. So what I need first of all, PVA. Cheap PVA, quid 500ml from Poundland. I'll mix that with water and washing up liquid to break up surface tension, and I'll paint that on. Okay, and then it comes round to this stuff. So this is my homemade scatter, my homemade grass. This is ground foam. Okay, basically car sponges which have been whizzed up and then mixed with paint and dyes as well. So there you go, I've got 4 different colours there. This was made up last year. Now that will go into my scattering tub. Right, it's just a plastic tub. There was palm sugar in this, which I made holes in. Pop it in there and I go like a sugar shaker. Okay, so I'll get started with it. Right, so here's my PVA. Now I've still got some leftover paint in here and a dirty paintbrush from yesterday, so I'll just get that on here as well. I'll put that in, mix that in with the PVA as well. Might as well. Wait not, want not. Just get that in, make it a bit thicker. Oh. There you go. Because it's got to be sticky as well as being easily put onable, as they say. Nobody says that, but I say it. In fact, you know what? Stick the rest of it in. Go on, get in there. There you go. A little bit left. I'm going to leave that upside down and drain that down to the bottom to go into my little touch-up glue pot. So keep on mixing. It's got a nice shade of green already. Doesn't really make any difference on PVA, to be honest, because that dries clear anyhow. So right, look at that, nice and gloopy. Look at that, like cream. We want to go for a good thick coating of this. Because we want loads of this stuff to stick on. Okay. Nice and thick, come on, nice and thick. Nice liberal coating of it. This will seal in the paper mache as well, of course, and the paint. So that's quite good because it's kind of like a rubbery, plasticky kind of texture when it dries, the PVA. So that's quite nice. Slap it on. Imagine you're a 70-year-old lady with loads of makeup, right? Going out to look like a bit lamb. You've dressed yourself up like lamb. So now you want a bit of theatrical paint on to make yourself look like lamb instead of mutton. There we go. Look at that. Now that is good. That's good. Thick doses. Just do me lipstick. Nice green, nice bit of green lipstick. That's what we like. So I'll start with my darkest green. There you go. Half a tub of that. So here we go. Yeah, it's covering nicely, isn't it? Don't you think? So that's my darkest green. pretty good amount of coverage there. These card sponges I was talking about, they're like 3 for £1. So you sit there with a big Kenwood food mixer, plenty of water. There you go, I'm about halfway through. Loads of water, and you keep feeding it through the mincer. Okay, going from the lightest green now. I've got a good coating over the entire board. Okay, but obviously there's lots of gaps because this stuff is small, isn't it? Now, going for a lighter kind of sprinkle now. There we go. Because the idea is to kind of fill the gaps. So obviously it will stick in the gaps, in the bits that's still wet. And this being spongy will obviously soak up the moisture from the glue quite quickly. So what I'm going to need to do at a later date, when this is dried, is put down some thinner PVA and let that soak in. Just need a little bit more. My next lightest green is going on now. I've actually got really good coverage already, so this is kind of belt and braces this. The idea is to kind of have a mix of colours, because you won't have uniform colouring in the real world, in nature, you see. And you see, the thing is, any spare is just going to drop off, any stuff doesn't stick, and go back into a mixed pot for next time. Right, second darkest now, just for a little final squidge over. Squidge being a word I've just invented. Well, maybe, I don't know. Probably been used by somebody before in the dim and distant past. Looky, looky. So we've got all the texture in there. See the texture? Really good coverage. Now, what I've got to do now is press it in, because we want that to push into the PVA. I can do that all over. And when I feel wet spots, I'll make sure that I kind of put some more on that later. Now that there's some has come off there as I've pressed down. But generally speaking, we're doing quite well. So just push it down, pat it in. Remember, we're going to go over this again with a more dilute PVA a bit later. Okay, we're going to splurge that on and put more of this on. Okay, let's tip some of this off and give it a tap. There you go, it's nicely mottled. I can see the gaps here as well. It's looking good. So now I'm going to get up all this spare green, patch up areas like here, for example, and away with us. There you go, I've recovered loads. Now it's just a case of popping this now into my little tub. There we go. Nice fold of the newspaper to help me. And then lid back on. So I've got a good amount there. So I've poured the PVA back into the bottle. I've thinned it right down. Now what I'm going to do now is use that thinned PVA. I'm going to drip that everywhere, okay, and let that soak in before I dust it. So again, so we've got quite a lot in here. That is diluted a fair bit, so you can see it soaking in. It's very important that you put the washing up liquid or the soap or whatever you use in there, because otherwise this stuff doesn't splurge out. It just stays clumpy. So there we go, we want it nice and wet. Now you don't have to worry about it being totally uniform, okay, but what you do want to make sure is that it doesn't like leave streaks. You want a really good coverage, because this is sealing it in as well, you know, because otherwise it's just going to keep dropping off. Make sure you go right up to the edges, because the edge is where you're going to get your wear and tear. Okay, let's get to work again. Remember, you're just building up the layers, and in this case filling in the gaps. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Well, probably just gentlemen, to be honest. Ladies aren't going to be worrying about this sort of nonsense. So there we go, far too sensible. That's my second covering with the lighter stuff. I'm not going to bother pushing that down, don't need to. That will stick or not. So yeah, I think we're good to go there. So I could press it down, but then what happens is it compresses it, you see. So I'd rather not. Yeah, happy with that.